The Policy and Personnel Committee to order. I want to make note that this meeting will be aired live on the School District of Beloit YouTube channel in order to comply with the Governor's Safer at Home order and the Open Meetings Law. To conduct committee meetings while maintaining the Governor's Safer at Home order and keeping the health and well-being of our families, community, staff, and board members a priority at this time, we encourage you to participate from the comfort and safety of your home instead of coming to COLAC. The board is encouraging this due to limited spacing and following social distancing directives from the Governor. Some members of the committee will be at COLAC tonight. For this committee, it's myself and Kyle Larson, and others will be participating via phone, and by phone we have Stephanie Jacobs participating. We thank you for your patience and understanding during these unprecedented times. All right, so we'll call the meeting to order. Could I have a roll call, please?
Larson?
Here.
Jacobs?
Here.
Charles?
Here. Okay, is there an approval of the agenda, please?
I move approval of the agenda.
Is there a second?
I do. I second.
All right, any questions on the agenda? All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? All right, the agenda is approved. And now we're at policy 522.71, social media guidelines for staff. This one, you might recall, came last month as a group of policies to be approved without a second reading by policy committee, to be approved by the board tonight for second reading. But there were some public concerns about this policy, so we held off on it, brought it back to committee tonight. And in the meantime, I did speak with our superintendent, Sue Green, and she has asked that we table this indefinitely and allow them to take the verbiage that we like off of it, because some of it was good, some of it we wanted to remove. So she would like the administration to take the verbiage that we want to keep and incorporate it into the revision of the handbook, the employee handbook, which is taking place now, correct? Or they're working on it?
Yeah, it would be done and completed before July 1st.
Okay. So what we want to do is just table this policy indefinitely with that understanding that it won't be thrown out, but the good parts will go into the employee handbook, and of course the board will be able to see what is added to the handbook from this.
So I would like to move to table policy 522.71, social media guidelines for staff.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I assume
Aye.
there was no discussion. I'm sorry, I missed that point. Okay, was there any discussion? I apologize. All right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. All right, so policy 522.71, social media guidelines for staff, is tabled indefinitely. Now we have policy and personnel, and there is a motion to go into closed session for some items that I know some board members would like to discuss on this.
I would like to move to convene the Policy and Personnel Committee into closed session pursuant to Section 19.85, Parent 1, Parent C, relative to considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which a governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility.
Thank you, Kyle. Is there a second?
I second.
All right, roll call, please, Michelle.
Charles?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Jacobs?
Aye.
Okay, so we voted unanimously to go into closed session, and we will be going off of the camera now and going into the closed session meeting room. Thank you. And we will return after this for a vote.
Ready?
Okay, we're once again in open session for policy and personnel meeting.
I would like to move to recommend the Employee Recommendations Exhibit A to the full Board of Education for approval.
Is Stephanie on the line?
I'm online. You guys sure move fast without me.
Would you like to make a second to the motion?
No, I'm good. I'm just adding a little humor.
Second the motion, Stephanie.
I'll second it. Okay. Is there any further discussion on policy and personnel recommendation Exhibit A? Okay, all in favor of approval of the employment recommendations Exhibit A, please say aye.
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 All right, any opposed? Okay, employment recommendations are approved, and next meeting date is kind of up in the air at this point. If we have one, it would most likely be on the 14th, but we'll have to decide that. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
All right, all in favor of adjourning, or is there a second, Stephanie? I'll second it. All in favor of adjourning, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.
That's fine. No, I was. I'm waiting. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we're going to move on to 2A, which is the soccer cooperative update. And Joanne?
Okay, I have Joel on the phone.
Okay.
He's going to talk to us through this. Sorry for this. Can you hear us, Joel?
Yes, I can.
Can you hear him?
Barely.
Go ahead, Joel.
So we're talking about girls soccer, right?
Yep.
Okay. So I reached out to the WIA before, after the last meeting that we had. I informed them of what we were looking at doing with our girls soccer co-op, and they are pretty firm in saying that if we're going to renew the co-op, it has to be for 2 years. We cannot do it for one. We can't even do it for three. It has to be for two. I asked our conference ADs about this situation as well, and they were pretty confident that the WIA would not change the length of a co-op for any situation like this. So it is 2 years if we renew. So that would be next year and the following year before we would disband if we decide to go that route, or we can not renew it now, and that will be end of the co-op, and we can continue as Bullet Memorial. I recommend that we should. I know this is hard for me to say, but I know with the COVID situation right now, but I do suggest that we just end the co-op right now instead of going 2 years. 2 years from now, we'll end up with a similar situation as the Verona and the Verona girls and boys swim co-op, where they'll have kids in the program for 2 years, and they are going to want to stay in the program. It'll be tough to have a freshman join right now be in the program for 2 years and then their junior and senior year not have soccer.
Any questions about that from the committee?
No questions, I just appreciate your insights on that.
Did you hear that, Joel?
I'd echo the
cannot.
same thing. Yeah, no
They
questions,
said that
but
they
do
didn't have
appreciate
any
the
questions
insight.
and they appreciated your input.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, let me know what I need to do next.
I think that do we need a motion on that? I think we,
Bye.
I'd like to make a motion that we conclude our contract, our agreement from 2018-2020 school year and move forward without renewing the soccer co-op with Blake Turner.
I'll second.
okay, any more discussion?
Point of clarification, is that a recommendation to the full board?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, because you didn't mention that.
Okay,
My apologies.
No, no problem.
go ahead.
Yeah, recommend to the full board. Thanks, sorry.
Okay, hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Joanne, and thank you, Joel.
Yep, I hung up on him. I'll fill him in. Sorry. That's a little difficult.
All right, item 3A, request for proposals.
Yes, in the midst of the COVID-19 and all of the goings-on right now, we wanted to, of course, start looking at budgets and projects that the district may want to do. So because pricing is so varied right now, and especially people are looking for work and things like that, we wanted to get ready and get the committee and then board approval to go ahead and issue some RFPs, which are requests for proposals, for a couple of our projects of the pool filter replacement, a new swing set at Converse to replace the current one that's falling apart, I believe. Parking lot crack filling at all of our schools. Redoing the small parking lot at McNeil, and then hopefully the next year we would do the larger parking lot. Flooring replacement in 4 classrooms at McNeil, which I think are our last 4 classrooms that we need to do. Redoing some bathrooms at Todd, Hackett, and Cunningham, and then the house tear downs of the properties that the district has purchased. By no means does issuing these RFPs mean we're doing the work. I want to be clear there, we're not committing. It will be in the RFP saying that this does not commit us to contract, but we have no idea pricing on all of these things. And right now, honestly, you're getting a lot of competitive pricing because people are looking for work. They want to secure work because the future is unknown at this point. So we have an opportunity to get some good pricing that we can hold people to if we were to go to contract. So it's more for a budget standpoint, so Sean and I can make some plans. And these aren't necessarily in our priority list. This is, we do know that the pool filters, we need to do something because we're continually having problems there. So that is one that's at the top. And if we're to do a project, we would expect that one to be the one that we would first be looking at.
Questions from the committee? Okay. Let's see, we need, I would state, I appreciate you continue to obviously plan ahead. Obviously, the world continues to spin and life goes on, and this will too come to an end at some point. But obviously, there's things that have to get done, and appreciate the work that you're putting in and thinking ahead. I mean, I'm a planner myself, so I think it's great to see that. So with all that being said, do we have a motion for this?
Okay, I would move to the full board. The recommendation of approval to release requests for proposals for the purpose of pricing estimates for the various facility projects listed.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any more discussion about that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Future agenda items. I know it's Megan.
Without any urgency at all. At some point, just wondering if we could get an update on, I think a few months ago we asked for an update on RFPs for the interpretation of board policies. I know that Michelle did a really great job bringing us some options. I thought we had decided to go back and do some more. I wasn't sure where we were on that. But like sometime between now and like December, I understand that there are some other priorities right now, but I just didn't want it to get lost.
Okay. Any others, Wendy?
Nope.
If you have any others, as the weeks go on here, let's just send me an email. Hearing none, the next meeting date will be, right now, do we have that tentatively planned for the beginning of May? That would be, what do we got for a date there?
Is it the first Tuesday?
Yeah.
Yep, May 5th. May 5th at 5:15.
Is that a
Pardon me?
It's like a holiday. Do we care? I'm just a little sensitive to holidays right now because I know we're having.
Cinco de Mayo?
Well, we're having a board meeting Thursday, which is Passover, and so I'm just trying to be conscientious of everybody's stuff. You know, could we do the 12th?
The 12th, I mean, I don't think.
Let's see, we're going to have board meeting on that day. Oversights that day too,
Or if anybody's okay with doing it Wednesday
or Monday.
or Monday.
Or Monday, yeah.
How about Monday, the 11th?
Or Monday the 4th, could we?
Or the 4th, I mean, sorry. You're right.
Which is Star Wars Day with it.
Okay. So the next meeting will be May 4th at 5:15, assuming that everything's status quo the way it is right now. All right, motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
Second on that.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion to
Or I could ask her after each item, she wants to add something. That might be better. Will it help our sound or not? Maybe it'll help our sound if that mic is off. Michelle, will it help if our sound is off, the mic's off, or not really make a difference?
We're not getting that back.
We're not getting any back right now.
Yeah.
Well, you know, Stephanie is. It's a late start. We had a little committee run over, but we got to do the business the right way. We would like to call this meeting to order. Michelle, would you do a roll call, please?
Charles? Here. What?
Here.
Larson?
Here.
Miller?
Present.
Sanchez? Here. Long?
Here.
Jacobs?
Here. Uh-oh.
Did everybody?
Yes.
Could I get an approval of the agenda, please?
So moved.
Second. Oh, go ahead, Jim.
Go ahead.
Somebody?
Megan did.
Megan?
You did? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed?
Oh,
We are now, do we have any public comment? Michelle, tonight? No public comment? For those of you watching at home, it's our second try on this virtual meeting stuff. We hopefully are getting better and better. As technology keeps changing on us, we'll try to keep up. So we are to the superintendent search. We have the WCAB that's going to do a virtual presentation for us. And then this is really about the WCAB and this, what's the back thing coming from? Okay. After our last meeting, there was some concerns as to what the WSB can do and what we're looking for. I talked to Dan on Friday. We had a nice conversation as to some of the things they're doing that's creative that will help us through this time with this virus situation that we've got. So, Dan, you want to introduce yourself and your partner, and it's your show for a while. Can she turn off her, on the other end, it's on her end.
Did you just turn it over to Guy and me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. What we have done is we put together a brief presentation tonight. And some of it's similar to what we presented earlier, some of it's not. And then what we certainly would like to do is to leave most of the time for discussion and questions that you have. My name is Dan Murad, and I'm one of the search consultants with Wisconsin Association of School Boards. Just in the way of background, I spent most of my the last 7 as superintendent, and then I spent 4 years as superintendent in Madison, and my final 6 years as superintendent was in a district in Michigan, the Birmingham Public Schools. So with that, I'll turn it over to Guy Levitt for his introduction.
Hi, I'm Guy Levitt. I am working with WSB as a search consultant. Served as a superintendent for 19 years and a CESA administrator for 8 years. Go ahead, Dan.
You give us a chance to provide some more information. And I would like to begin by with an apology for any concern or confusion that may have been created by the letter I sent. Yes, we did indicate that we had flexibility in the search process, but in looking back, you know, we didn't have the benefit of a conversation about what that could mean, where that flexibility could come from. And hopefully tonight this will be the beginning of that type of conversation. But more than anything, we want to make sure that we're able to respond to any questions that you may have. Show some slides. Guy, if we can go to slide number 3.
Okay, I am going to move to a presentation mode now.
Okay, what you have here? I'm sorry. Are you able to hear me? Yet?
Yes.
You have a slight echo,
Okay.
Guy. Do you have one of your mics
I'm sorry.
unmuted?
I'm terribly sorry. I'm not hearing you.
Yeah, one of your mics might be left on. I'm getting an echo from you.
Mine is still on because I can't mute it when I got the screen up.
Okay.
Should we go ahead and try it and just see if you're able to hear?
Yes, please.
Okay. You know, we approach our searches with a very keen understanding that you are in a period of transition and leadership change, and that you have also defined some direction for yourself as a school district. And that's what you see on this slide, is right off your own mission statement and your statement about how you work to prepare students in particular. We mention that because the type of search that we want to do on your behalf with you is in recognition of the good work that you're doing. And while any new superintendent may come in with ideas, it's also very important that that superintendent have an understanding of the work that's being done so they can share with you their ideas on how that work can be built upon. So that's why we share that particular slide.
Still there, Dan?
Yeah, slide number 4, please. This is a slide that we did share with you when we met earlier. The next one is a new slide. But we realize that selecting the superintendent is the most important work that a school board does. Our work relative to helping school boards is to have specialized in placing Wisconsin superintendents. And that's the only superintendents that we work to place with school boards. But we also have an ability to network nationally through an organization that we're a part of called the National Affiliation of Superintendent Searchers, which is supported by the NSBA. Because with that network, we're able to reach out nationally to be able to urge applicants to apply for this position. We are also able to advertise nationally if that's one of the interests that you have, but that's really going to be discovered through more in-depth conversation. So the point is that we do have established networks to assist in identifying a pool of candidates, and we have experience working with all types of school districts, and we also pride ourselves on being knowledgeable about what quality school districts are looking for in superintendents. And yes, we can be flexible in the slide that we want to be able to have with you. Guy, we'll go to the next slide, slide 5. This is a new slide, and it's very much an evolving part of our work, just as the work that you're doing to hold virtual meetings is evolving for you. And so what we've done is we've had a lot of discussion as an organization about how we go about conducting the search in what we label this very special time. If that is desired by you as a school board, we are prepared to do the entire search virtually. And we currently are doing 6 searches across the state in a virtual format. If there's a need for policy development in relationship to virtual meetings, you might already have that done. We're able to support that work as well. But the things that we are able to do virtually from the beginning to end of the search is to hold pre-screening, have pre-screening meetings with applicants, have those taped, provide an introduction for those that you may want to select to come in for interviews. We are able to do focus groups, which is a very important part of the way we do searches. We're able to do those virtually. We're able to do the interviews virtually. And something that's not on here that we'll mention again later on is that should you desire, when you're down to final candidate, to do a public forum, we can do those virtually as well. And we have experience already doing public forums virtually. And the remainder of this slide is to let you know that we are able to work on a variety of platforms, and we certainly are more than willing to work with you on whatever platform you're the most comfortable working on. But I think what's important for us to share with you is that we are able to do the entire search in a virtual way with all the various components of the search. With that, Guy, we'll move to slide 7. This lays out the various search stages. And so we have a very sequential manner in which we go through the search process with you. And in many ways, these don't vary from what other search firms do. But one of the things I want to point out to you is just how important the planning and preparation and engagement with stakeholders phase of this process is for us working with you. So what we would propose is a very formal planning meeting with a very complete agenda that would identify the entire timeline for the search. You need to know the timeline that you want to work with in developing that. And we have a whole series of things that we would address in a form of engagement with stakeholders. We really have 2 main tools that we use for this engagement. So keep in mind, those forms of engagement, which I'll describe in a second, are very much aligned to the search. But at the same time, we feel that this is also an opportunity for the school district to create new forms of engagement with stakeholders around the issues of how additional trust can be built for a school district. So one of the two ways that we look at engagement is through the use of those focus groups. And we do those typically with staff. We can do those with community members. We can do those with parents. We can do those with the school board. And who we do those with really come in that planning meeting where we work with you to decide who you want to reach out to. And in discussing this a little bit with Jeff, I know that there is some priority that's being placed on ensuring staff input into the search process. And that's clearly something that we can accomplish through the focus groups, and we can also, to reiterate, we can do those virtually. What we're looking at through those focus groups is to be able to identify a profile for your next superintendent. And it's very important that this listening occur in a way that helps you understand what your stakeholders are looking for. And I know you've gone through this some in your prior searches as well, so some of that prior work may serve a value here. The second way that we look at engagement, while we place a priority on these focus groups, facilitating them, the second form of engagement is a community survey. It's entirely up to you whether or not you want to do that survey, but it provides a way for people that don't want to plug into a focus group to have input into the qualities of your next superintendent. What we try to do is through this, both the focus groups and the survey, if you desire that, is we work to create a profile for your next superintendent. But there's a second part, and this is part of the type of advertising that we would do for your position. We also attempt to identify through those focus groups in particular, what assets does the school district of Beloit have? What is their senses of pride? What are the senses of pride in the community? Because part of it is, if you're looking to attract people who don't know anything about Beloit, it becomes critically important that we be able to share your story about the Beloit school district and about the community of Beloit. We'll go to the next slide, and we just have a few more, slide 9. This one is a little bit repetitive, but again, as part of the posting the vacancy, and I know that you've done some posting already, but in posting this through WASB, we would use the focus groups and community survey to develop a candidate profile. We would also develop on your behalf an electronic brochure, and we would work with you to decide to the traditional advertising that WSB does. In particular, if it's national advertising, we have a way to accomplish that on your behalf. You may want that, you may not want that. And then the other thing that happens through various forms of engagement is it's very helpful because part of our application process, I believe different than we can, is we have respondents, applicants, I should say, respond to 2 or 4 essay questions, and those can be developed as part of the profile process through the focus groups in particular. I want to go to slide 10 then. This is something that we feel is very important to emphasize tonight in this presentation to you. While we feel strongly that the WSB application process should be used, and we have a variety of reasons for that, we cannot emphasize enough that there is no attempt by WSB to pre-screen out any of the applicants. So let me say it a little differently. As a Board of Education, you will receive applications, and you will go through a process, and we have a way of suggesting how you do that, of reviewing all those applicants. Because in the end, while we may have information about applicants that we want to be able to share with you, and we feel as your consultant that we should share with you, it's really critically important for me to underscore you get all the completed applications, and you make the final decisions about who you're going to interview. And while we have a whole bank of interview questions, you will be deciding as a board of Education for your applicants. We'll go to slide 11. Again, this is just emphasizing again, the Board of Education selects the applicants for the first round of interviews. And you will finalize those interview questions. We'll do all the back house stuff in terms of setting up all the interviews and scheduling all the interviews. And we can assist you by being present in the interviews. But the interviews themselves are conducted by the Board of Education. The consultant doesn't facilitate the interviews. We'll go to slide 12. This is the final interview. Again, emphasize Board of Education selects the final candidates to come back in for the final round of interviews. WSB, under the fourth bullet there, we have a service where we provide a criminal, financial, and educational background check. We do that through a third-party vendor. And while we can assist you with the reference check, and how we do that is to provide you some common questions to ask for reference checks, our view is that the Board of Education, by identifying a couple of members, should do the checks. And we feel that that's critically important is because we don't want to be filtering information from direct reference checks. We want you to be able to hear that information directly. And then finally, again, here's that public forum piece again. Oftentimes what school boards are doing, while the second round of interviews is occurring, there could also be another interview team beyond the Board of Education also reviewing those finalists or interviewing those finalists. But we can also conduct public forums virtually to be able to have these people respond to the public, present themselves to the public virtually, and to be able to respond to the questions directly from the public. And then if we could go to slide 15, which is our final slide for tonight. Again, emphasizing we know that this is a very, perhaps the most important task that a school board does. And we know that you have experience with it. And more than anything, we want to be of help to you in working through your next search. And so while we will provide advice and counsel, we can't underscore enough that the key decisions about who you interview, who you bring back for final interviews, for example, are should be made by the board. And in addition, I can't emphasize enough that we do not pre-screen out applications. You will receive all the completed applications to review. And so with that, I'll stop. Let me just turn to Guy quickly. Before we entertain questions, is there anything else you would want to add?
I will try to speak. I've been getting some feedback before. We have learned from doing team meetings, it's critically important that anybody not speaking mute your mic. That really cuts off the feedback. That clearly is helping on my end because I'm not hearing the feedback I was hearing before. So that's one of the lessons we've learned in presenting in a virtual format.
So anything else, Guy, for now?
No, I'm good for now, Dan.
Okay, thank you very much. And now we're prepared to answer any questions you have and have a discussion about what we're able to assist you with this search.
All right, we appreciate that, and I'm going to let the board ask questions, and who wants to be the first one up? Anybody?
Maybe if we start with Stephanie, we can get her mic.
Stephanie, are you there? Stephanie?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
I know you're on like a 10-second delay, I believe. We are at questions. Since you're not here, the board feels that you should be able to ask the first question, because the other thing we want to do is mute your mic because of the feedback we're getting. So, do you have a question for?
I do not at this time.
Okay. I'm going to turn your mic off, and I'm going to come back to you. So if we turn her mic off, because she can still hear us, right? Without that? Okay. So, all right. So does anybody want to have a question to start with? Kyle, you want to start? Go ahead.
So I love the idea of being able to do everything virtually. I'm wondering kind of what that looks like. So if you do like, for example, a remote focus group or a virtual focus group, is it, everybody dialing in from their homes? I'm thinking that could be a little chaotic. So just how is that working with other searches? Like what's the format and like the process for that?
Screen so that I can record the answers that people are giving to the questions. Generally, it takes people commit about 45 minutes to the question, but it's worked quite well.
Okay, thank you.
And if I could just add, what we have a set of if I can offer another commentary on focus groups. When we meet
all the responses we got to the questions, but they're not divided down by these are staff responses, these are support staff responses, these are community responses. We say, here's everything we heard, and here are the themes that came out of those focus groups. So we're not making any judgments. People are being anonymous with us, and they tend to be very, very honest.
Thank you.
Wendy, is that your mic? No, you're not on. So, John?
Yeah, I have a number of questions here. First of all, you had talked about the virtual searches that you're doing right now. I think you said there's about 6 of them that you have going on right now. I don't know if it's possible to get references on that, or maybe to have conversations with people from those districts that are going through that process to see what their views are on that.
and you were kind of going in and out. You mean on the virtual piece?
Right, yeah. What districts do you have working on that right now?
We could perhaps have you make contact with the superintendent of a district we just completed a search for, which was virtual. That would probably be appropriate, but for the ones that are still active right now, I think it would be, it might not even be appropriate to try do commentary on those.
Sure, that's fine. Second question is, when we first started out this process, I know there was some confusion as far as what you were going to do and what we may do. And while I know we initially had the posting through Weekend, and that obviously caused the conversation about the letter. But I guess so that we're crystal clear on that, and I'm not speaking on behalf of the board or the staff itself, I know that we've talked to Ms. Armstrong to see what she would be willing to do. But what are the things that are definitely on the table that that WASB has to do to make this possible so that you guys can take the ball and run? And what are some things that perhaps we can do, assuming we have time and the personnel to be able to do that?
I didn't hear the entire question. I heard the last part of it, but what was the first part of the question? I'm sorry.
What part of the process do you want to be, does WASB have to be involved in to make this happen with you? And then what are the pieces that potentially we can assist with, or our group can, or our staff can do?
important for us to do the posting through WSB. We've got an electronic application process. We've got a paralegal in the office to go through, make sure applications are completed, and consultants the other consultants then are able to weigh in on these candidates, which is helpful to us. We also feel it's important that as an outside entity that we conduct the focus groups because we have no agenda. We're from the outside, we're gathering information, and the only system we're looking for is to get you the best match possible as your next superintendent. Aside from that, a place where, like your HR director would be really good in assisting the board on your reference check phone calls. There may be a possibility that if we're doing a focus group with a Hispanic group or a group that has language issues, then we might have to use the interpreter that the district could provide to help us with that particular focus group.
Okay. You had mentioned about, let me, what part of the interview?
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay. You had mentioned about the interview process itself and that's more of the board doing that. Would you be involved at all with the interview process? Or is that strictly up to us? You set it up, they come in, or we do a virtual one, we interview them, and then we make our selections, and then we pass it on to you?
Yeah, I think that's an area that we could discuss how it works. Is the consultant is present mainly to help the board during the interview evenings or whenever you would do the interviews to make sure you have all the resources that you need to be able to do that. And then oftentimes what happens is when the board is deliberating, the consultant may be asked to provide their input through the interviews just as another set of eyes. Now, I'm not saying that can't happen another way, but that's how it's currently been used and done.
One of the things also, we've usually had a consultant sit in on the interviews because then at the end of the 2 nights of first reviews, we're able to help the board narrow the field. But also, the consultant then makes contact with all the candidates who received the first interview, lets them know which ones advanced to a second round and which ones didn't. And because of our process, many times those candidates that don't advance are looking for feedback. If we have sat in on the interview, we're in a position to give them that feedback, which is very helpful.
Okay, thank you. And last question, are there any follow-up services that you would provide?
The biggest follow-up we provide is as part of our search process, we offer an onboarding meeting after the new superintendent has been in the district about 60 days, just to be sure that the board and the new superintendent get off on the right foot. And we offer that. It's built into our search cost. It's not an extra add-on.
Okay, thank you.
Pam?
Okay, Dan and Guy, thank you so much. Oh, I guess you're over here for me. Thank you for this presentation. You covered everything again, and I appreciate that. We already voted to use WASB. And so I think the question right now is how do we proceed as far as those applications that came through WeCan that you have to have come through you? What are the next steps with that? That's my first question. And then the second one, if you could address, how easy are these focus groups to do virtually? Because right now it's a little bit clumsy, and it might be because we have various mics going and all that, but is it really going to go smoothly if we do focus groups virtually? So those two questions. How do we proceed with applications, and how well will this focus group, virtual focus group, go for us, do you think?
In terms of the applications, let me just take a step back. If we're going to move forward together, which is obviously what we're wanting to do as an organization, we need to set up a time to complete that planning meeting because there's a whole variety of details that you need to weigh in on as a board, and that really creates the roadmap for the entire search. So we would need to set up that planning meeting. And then in terms of the applications, one of the things that and what we would want to be able to do is to work with the applicants to help them convert whatever they can from the We Can application into the WASB process, and actually be willing, I would be willing, and we would also work with Sally at the WSB office to assist those candidates to make it as less a burden as possible.
Okay.
And generally, the materials that they're asked to submit are in the form of PDF files. So the feedback we've got on our electronic process has been pretty good from the applicants we've seen this year.
Do you use something like Zoom, or what do you use? Not for applicants, but for focus groups.
We have been using Zoom for most of the meetings. It tends to be a little more stable platform than what we're on tonight. We've gotten less feedback on Zoom. But in the technology department, they may have another option as well. So it doesn't have to be one thing or another. We've had good luck with Zoom.
Okay, so it sounds like the ball's in our court as far as having a planning meeting. Thank you.
Would you want the applicants to move to reapply with WASB in the process before the planning meeting? So would you need us to give that direction tonight and set a date for the planning meeting so then applications come in, or do we have to do the planning meeting first?
No, I don't think we have to do the planning meeting first. Do you agree, guys?
Well, I think you do, Dan, because in the planning meeting, you've got to finalize your search calendar, because that goes into the